Chicago, the beating heart of Illinois, was a creature of steel and smoke, teetering between the elegant and the monstrous. Night after night, it wore a veil of shadowy mystery as though a harbinger of cryptic secrets and untold stories. One such enigma cloaked Frank, a young detective with eyes both curious and weary. These eyes had weathered many storms, storms of lost souls, hardened criminals, and personal demons. Of these demons, an eating disorder was the most relentless, a shrouded specter from his past that had tattooed indelible scars on his mind. Frank stood under the frigid kiss of the moonlight, staring at the gnarled, brooding trees that encased the Chicago graveyard like ancient sentinels. The wind whistled a lonesome tune through the wrought iron gates, their rust-kissed bars glowing eerily under the spectral light. His gaze traced the weather-worn tombstones, shadows bending over them like grieving specters. He felt a shiver of unease wind its way around his spine, a silent acknowledgement that he had plunged into a case far from the realms of ordinary. His first encounter was with Harold, the grizzled caretaker. His face was etched with the wrinkles of time, eyes twinkling with an amalgam of wisdom and hidden terror. "These rich folks," Harold murmured, his voice a low rasp echoing in the stillness. "They ain't just mourning, sir. There's something off, something colder than the gravestones." After Harold, there was the reluctant gravedigger, Mason, a man of colossal frame and few words. The gloom in his eyes whispered tales of unvoiced horrors and unshed tears. "Ever heard of the Thin Veil, detective?" Mason finally muttered. "Ever wondered what lies beyond?" Frank, initially puzzled, began to sense the undercurrents of fear in their hushed words, the whispers of an unholy congregation amongst the sleeping souls. Each night, the city's richest would gather, wrapped in extravagant cloaks, their faces masks of haughty indifference and veiled dread. Their secretive meetings, often around the oldest grave of a forgotten heiress, were a mystery that sank its claws deep into his soul. Within his cramped apartment, he would pore over his notes, his fingers often brushing over the remnants of his untouched dinner. He remembered the haunting specter of his reflection, twisted in the silverware, his battle with food a silent war. Yet he found solace in the shadows of his case, the daunting enigma a welcome distraction from the mirror's merciless honesty. As he kept reading, he felt a shudder of recognition at the drawing of an ancient symbol, 5 stars encased within a circle, the same symbol Mason had carved into the earth with his worn-out boots. It was a symbol he knew was tied to the wealthy congregants in their graveyard secrets. Frank had long known the underbelly of Chicago to be a churning, seething entity that harbored the unspeakable. However, the revelation of the ancient book, a grimoire of sorts, struck him like the peal of an unearthly bell, sounding from the depths of an abyss he had only begun to fathom. The grimoire bore the weight of the centuries, its parchment skin mottled and inscribed with symbols as cryptic as the constellations themselves. There, amidst its worn pages, he found the symbol again, the circle enclosing 5 stars, a cosmic brand seared into the heart of the mystery. As he traced the weathered glyphs and time-forgotten scripts, it felt as though he were brushing his fingers against the gossamer fabric of the cosmos itself. It was as if he held a slice of the universe in his trembling hands, its black ink symbols dancing like distant stars in an unfathomable void. Through his investigation, he began to weave a tapestry of the wealthy congregants' grim fascination, the ceremonies under the moonlight, the age-old chants lifted from the grimoire, the cryptic symbol carved in the earth, all signs of an infernal pact with entities from the unknown. But as he dived deeper into the mystery, a palpable dread began to settle over him like an ominous shroud. Shadows lengthened in his apartment, corners darkened, and a sense of being watched slithered around him, coiling tighter with each passing day. His dreams, once mundane, morphed into phantasmal visions of distorted realities, where spectral figures danced around him under an impossibly starry sky, chanting in an arcane tongue. He would wake up with a cold sweat, the echoes of their voices clinging to the edges of his waking consciousness. Unseen threads of terror wove themselves into the fabric of his existence, A cawing crow startled him during his daily walks. The whispering wind sounded like murmured threats, and his own reflections seemed distorted, its eyes a little too hollow, the visage a tad more gaunt. A fear he had not known before began to bloom in his heart, its roots drawing nourishment from the cosmic enigma that the grimoire represented. His interactions with people became more strained, their expressions a labyrinth of veiled threats and eerie complacency. Even a casual conversation with a waiter at a diner or a chance encounter with a passerby began to take on an ominous hue. The city that was his home had transmogrified into a spectral beast, its every brick and corner seeming to conspire against him. The affluent graveyard congregants, their cryptic ceremonies, the ancient grimoire, these were not mere fragments of an unholy puzzle. They were the hunters, and he was their prey. The truth, as it often is, was a bitter potion to swallow. As the echoes of the grimoire's enigma grew deafening, Frank steeled himself for the plunge into the abyss, the hunter's shadows growing darker, the cosmic game advancing into its terrifying next stage. Chicago was no longer the city Frank knew, but a sinister simulacrum, its steel veins pulsating with dread. The raven-haired detective, once secure in his knowledge and intuition, now found himself in a maze of spectral uncertainties, chased by the specter of the unfathomable. The wealthy graveyard congregants were not mere hobbyists drawn to the creepy event. They were orchestrators of a cosmic puppet show with him as the marionette. And yet in this revelation lay a perverse sense of affirmation. The world had not turned topsy-turvy of its own accord. It was pushed. He remembered the cryptic warning of Reginald Hastings, a plutocrat whose eyes mirrored the same cold terror that had started to gnaw at his own sanity. "The stars align, Detective," Reginald had whispered, a sickly smile twisting his pallid face. "And you are at the center." Then there was the heart-stopping incident with the speeding car, an attempt on his life that was no accident. His world contracted to the screeching of tires and the glare of headlights, the taste of his heart in his mouth, and the feeling of life's ephemeral nature hanging by a mere thread. The dread seeped into the very marrow of his existence. Every stranger's glance was a potential threat, every rustling of the wind a herald of danger, and every shadow a lurking predator. The cityscape, once a welcoming cacophony of sights and sounds, had become a darkened stage for a horrifying play of survival. He felt the cosmic game tightening around him like a noose. The grimoire echoed its dark hymns in his subconscious, becoming the grim soundtrack to his daily existence. His eating disorder, a demon he thought he had tamed, began to reawaken, feeding off his growing terror. His reflection in the mirror bore the marks of this unending siege, a gaunt face, hollow eyes, and a grim set to his mouth. Yet amid this tightening gyre of fear, a metamorphosis began within him. He discovered within himself a tenacity he hadn't known he possessed, an unwavering resolve to face the oncoming storm. The shared dread in the eyes of the congregants ignited a spark in him, an understanding that they too were prisoners of the cosmic terror they had invited. With renewed vigor, he delved deeper into the grimoire's enigma, decoding the arcane symbolism and piecing together the cosmic puzzle. Through whispered legends and half-remembered folklore, he began to comprehend the congregants' celestial contract and his unforeseen role within it. He felt an odd sense of calm, a lighthouse in the raging storm. The city with its menacing labyrinth was no longer an overwhelming beast, but a challenge to be faced head-on. The echoes from the grimoire had been deciphered into a language of survival. With the knowledge of the hunters in the shadows, he had emerged not as prey, but as a potential threat to their game. As the silver face of the moon rose in the Stygian sky, Frank found himself at the gates of the Chicago graveyard once again. But now he was not the naive detective seeking to unveil a macabre secret. He was a man on the precipice of the unfathomable, armed with the cryptic knowledge he had deciphered from the grimoire. The wind's eerie song fell silent. The city's steel heart seemed to hold its breath, and the spectral illumination of the moon painted the tombstones in an otherworldly glow. He knew that tonight was not an ordinary gathering. It was the night of culmination, the night the stars aligned, and he was the centerpiece. Within the nebulous embrace of the graveyard, he saw them, the wealthy congregants, their faces masks of anticipation and dread, their bodies swathed in extravagant cloaks. They stood in a circle around the ancient grave, the very epitome of cosmic horror incarnate. With a grimoire in his hands and a sense of grim determination in his heart, he approached them. His heart pounded in his chest like a frantic drummer, his senses heightened to an unnatural sharpness. He could see the minute tremble of a leaf, hear the distant hoot of an owl, and smell the rich, earthly scent of the graveyard. "Time to face the abyss, detective." Reginald's voice slithered through the silence, sending a chill down Frank's spine. Yet the fear did not consume him. Instead, it hardened his resolve. He held up the grimoire, revealing his understanding of their arcane rituals and cosmic contracts. A shock of recognition rippled through the congregants. He saw fear in their eyes. They had not expected their prey to evolve into a challenger. They were not hunters at that moment, but the hunted. As Frank began to recite the counter incantation inscribed in the grimoire, the stars seemed to pulse in the night sky. A gust of wind swept through the graveyard, sending leaves swirling into a frenzied dance. The congregants, their faces ashen, tried to disrupt him, but the strength of his conviction held them at bay. The ancient symbol, the 5 stars enclosed within a circle, seemed to etch itself into the very fabric of the night. The air trembled with a cosmic melody, a symphony of celestial bodies in motion, and he could feel an invisible tether pulling him towards the unknown. It was terrifying, yet exhilarating, an intimate dance with the cosmos itself. As the counter incantation reached its zenith, the cosmic connection was severed. The congregants fell to the ground, their expressions twisted in shock and defeat. The echo from beyond the veil had been silenced, the cosmic game ending with the prey emerging victorious. He stood amidst the defeated congregants, the grimoire clasped tightly in his hands. His heart still thundered, and his body trembled, yet an indomitable calmness enveloped him. He had faced the cosmic abyss and emerged unharmed, a survivor of the grand play of celestial horrors. The echoes from beyond the veil were silenced, the grimoire's enigma decoded, and the hunters in the shadows vanquished. Frank, forever changed by his foray into the cosmic abyss, stood tall, a testament to human resilience amidst the unknowable. In the heart of the silent city, beneath the watchful eyes of the cosmos, he had not just survived, but prevailed, a beacon of light in the infinite, terrifying abyss of cosmic horror. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it and subscribe to our channel, where you can find more similar stories, and click on the bell icon to never miss one. There is plenty more cosmic horror to come from the Eldritch Tales Factory. Stay tuned, and until next time.